There we go. All right, so we are now live. Let me go ahead and go to the actual stream itself.
I would not do that with your audio so loud.
Oh, I'm going to turn the audio off as soon as I get here. It says waiting for Suris, so it shouldn't. All right, there we go. Suddenly.
Yeah, I see the live icon.
There we are. Excellent. Okay, everything is working. So we see Godless Iowan, Parcel Form. Who else do we have? I cannot even see who all is viewing. 4 watching right now. Cool. All right, guys. So this is the first time that we're actually going to be doing a live interview on the channel. The last 2 interviews that we've done on the channel obviously had to be scripted beforehand because the people had to be left anonymous. Anybody who's actually watched the those 2 interviews knows why. But this one is actually a little bit different. This is DubKDad, and he is an old school, like I want to say a decade ago, YouTuber who I was a huge fan of growing up. This guy has a lot of my respect, and oddly enough, we ended up coalescing on interests as far as the atheist skeptic community went. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to you, DubKDad. Why not go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey, how you doing? This is, man, I've been away from YouTube for years. This feels so weird. Hi, everyone.
I would imagine.
I don't really know what to say. I'm still getting over the shock that people are looking at me again.
So a little bit of background of why there wasn't a lot of advertising on my channel before this. That's because there wasn't a lot of advertising to me either. I was actually at work and I received a message from DubKDad. Hey, I'd like a spot on your channel real quick for an interview.
You got Nico.
I do. Let me move this away.
Yes, totally not sponsored by Blue Yeti.
Totally not sponsored by Blue Yeti at all. All right, so everybody who is listening to the broadcast, is it sounding better now? Is it functional? Is it echoey? It's on his end. Well, unfortunately, the situation we're in on his end is that he's using his phone, and when we tried this with his headphones, it was infinitely worse. So, is the audio bearable on that end? There we are. Okay, sweet. Then we are back to where we were. See, I literally got the message from you that you wanted an interview on here, and I was thinking, oh, sure, I can host that on my channel in a few days. When do you want it? And it's just like, oh yeah, today would be good. Oh, sweet. Let me just rush.
I mean, if it's all the same to you, I mean, there's like lots of topics that you touch on that really interest me. And whenever you get bored, because I have like my kids are grown now, and I don't really do much but go to work, come home, go to sleep. And so like anytime you get bored, I'll be perfectly fine just like bouncing ideas off of you, or you could bounce ideas off of me. Because I mean it's whatever. It's fun. There's not a lot of people to talk to in person about these subjects, you know what I'm saying? Especially now I'm living in Arizona.
I live in the South. There's nobody to talk to in person here.
Exactly. So people look at you like you have like horns and stuff.
Yeah, when I mention to people who come to my workplace, when I mention anything about theology, I specifically use the word theology. And what I get from them is, oh, well, you just have to read the scripture and pray, and that will lead you to where you're going. And I'm like, I specifically used a broad term because I specifically meant one of the 42,000 religions. I did not say yours. I did not mean yours was special.
Hey, it's American exceptionalism.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you're in America, then it's Christianity everywhere, that's like right. Almost right. Exclusively.
Exactly.
But that said, we can go ahead and hop in the first topic. Originally, I was going to build up some questions around the topics, but given the time constraints, that was not something that I had available. So I guess we'll go ahead and let you speak on the first topic. So we will go here. So one of the first things you wanted to talk about was the lack of people of color in the skeptic community. And I guess by that you mean in the broad sense, so skeptic, atheists, vocal agnostics, It's not something that I have a lot of experience with, but that's because I'm a pasty white kid. So obviously,
you're an Indian. Don't even.
Yes, nationality-wise, but if you look at me and I legally put something on paper, it says Caucasian, aka white AF. So it's not necessarily something that I have a lot of experience with on my end, but it is a moniker that I've heard before. So if you want to go ahead and say your 2 cents on that and let us know what you think about it. Obviously, you've got a little more experience in there, being in the house, as it were.
So let me ask you this: when you go to the conferences, how many do you actually see? How much of a presence do someone like me? How much do they represent?
Well, I want to say at Faithless Forum, we probably only had about 10% of the audience was people of color, and then none of us.
The only real people of color that we saw at the conference was maybe 1 or 2 people.
So less than 10%.
Not even 10%. Yeah, it was the one guy that talked to you after the forum, and I think
the guy who came for Telltale.
Yeah, and then there was one guy that left about halfway through, right before we broke for dinner.
And he was the one that posted later saying that he had to leave earlier to take care of his parents.
Yep.
So yeah, really, only between 1 and 3 people. And I guess 3 would even be stretching it. So yeah, not that many in a conference that was sitting around 70 to 100 people. So less than 10% easily.
Yeah. I guess there's like a lot of stigma to not believe in God, especially in my community. Especially I grew up Southern Baptist. I believe you did too, right?
I grew up non-denominational, but Southern Baptist had the highest influence in my life due strictly to my location. But I was in a Christian private school, so it was very non-denominational.
Okay, so yeah, but I grew up Southern Baptist, and so all the tropes and I'm trying to be delicate here because the attacks could be real. So on my part.
Apparently, according to the chat, Pam's name is now Lady Suris.
What?
Is that Lady Suris?
She's just off camera. You can see her arm.
I specifically put it that way because, I don't know how comfortable I am because I have a lot of self-esteem issues, and seeing myself on camera causes me a panic attack. So,
yeah, that's
I will peek in and say hello. I've got nice bright red hair. Nice to meet y'all. I'm Lady Suris, I guess. I guess that's my name now.
This is Pam. She actually did half of the camera work along with Brilliant Doubt during the Faithless Forum. She volunteered to take care of that.
Oh, that's legit. Yeah,
I walked
but anyway,
in not really caring, and then left being one of the biggest contributors to the camera work.
She walked in an apatheist and left not quite as much of an apatheist.
So like I was saying, there's a lot of stigma, and I'm sure you encountered it. You get all the questions of well, what do you believe in, or do you worship the devil? And it's like, to say I worship the devil would basically mean that I believe in God.
Believe in one.
I don't, And
I mean, I get that here as well. Anytime you mention that you're an atheist around here, it's, oh, you're doing the devil's work. How? I don't even think that guy exists.
Well, he didn't exist from all the things that I've read and studied. He wasn't even mentioned wasn't even called really the devil in the Bible.
No, he was just the rebellious, the adversary. Satan literally translates to the adversary.
Yeah,
so really, he was more of an idea than anything. Now, in the Bible, it does mention Lucifer. It does mention the angel, but the idea of Satan mostly, kind of comes down to just the adversary.
So yeah, so that was my experience. And so how that translated is, it sounds weird, but it's hard to come out. like when I first started espousing a lot of things on Facebook, oh my God, I was getting pounded every day.
I can understand
relatives in my inbox, on Messenger, and there's people with the most bizarre comments on my posts. And my posts are really innocuous. I was just like, I'm going through some transitions in my life, and I couldn't understand. Like, what really did it for me was maybe 10 years ago, the last time I was in church, and someone was giving a testimony, that they do in Southern Baptist Church, talking about how they got the job that they wanted, and they had prayed about it. And I'm like, everybody was like praise them and, amen and all this. And I'm thinking, weren't we just talking about the people how we were supposed to pray for the people who died in the fire? Like the previous weekend, there was a house fire and some kid passed away. And we're praying. And I'm like, okay, so let me get this right. Last week, God gave you the job you wanted, but he couldn't help that family get that kid out the house. It was such a serious mismatch for me. And it's like a switch turned in my head. And I'm just like, this is, I can't take this anymore.
It was like we were talking about earlier before the hangout, how God is essentially playing a game of Risk on both sides because he's either lonely or doesn't get along with people.
Yeah, that's a great quote.
I love Aaron Raw for quotes like that. He's really good for stuff like that. I'm
gonna have to find that. That sounds hilarious, especially the way he delivers it.
That was actually his most recent upload just today.
Oh, really?
He did a conference in Milwaukee, and it was the reason he wasn't able to attend Faithless Forum, and he was very vocal that he was not happy about that on a Holy Kool-Aid stream. That he was booked for Milwaukee and he wasn't able to attend Forum. But he did just upload his part of the conference for the Milwaukee event, and that was one of the things that he said in there. And I was just like, "That's a gem. I'm keeping that."
Yeah, that's pretty excellent. Yeah, that's pretty good.
See, I do think so. In my experience, now a lot of people know how I deconverted, but they don't necessarily know the area that I grew up in. I grew up as the one white kid, or one of like three maybe, in Montclair, in Florida, which is literally the ghetto where you buy all of your drugs from in Florida. But I can say that just from that anecdotal evidence, I did not meet anybody growing up who was not a Christian, who did not go to an extremely segregated church. Anytime that I went to one of my friends' church, it was an all-black church, with the exception of me and maybe like one or two other people. It seemed, and I don't necessarily want to say it's a cultural thing, because I'm the type of person that believes that all people are equal as far as race is concerned. But it does seem that Christianity and the culture of color are very much intertwined in America, like very, very heavily so.
Yeah, I think it's almost by design. You think about how the African slave was indoctrinated into Christianity, and how the master would allow the certain smart slave to give the sermons to the slaves, and that kind of just kind of passed on through history. And I think Dr. King said that Sunday morning or Sunday at noon is the most segregated hour in America, and it's true.
Yeah,
and I think it all just stems from that time.
Ironically, you know what the meaning of apostate is, right?
No, what is it?
It's a Telltale Atheist actually touched on this in one of his recent videos. That said, I do want to say before that, for anybody who's coming in and tuning in, who just came in from Telltale Atheist, he literally just shouted me out 15 minutes ago. So I want to thank him on air for that, as well as in the description. But with that said, also, hi, Brilliant Doubt. I am here without my avatar for the first time on my channel. Yes.
I love how you specifically call out Brilliant Doubt, but you did not address Iowan at all, or Mrs. Snarky.
Because I'm bouncing between the two. So when I see something, he's speaking in all caps. He's more visible to me. It's the internet. All caps makes you visible.
You hear that, Iowan? If you're not large enough for him, you don't get shouted out.
Speak. Iowan is Matthew is a very sad person. Shoot, what was I even saying? I was saying something relevant.
Apostate.
The meaning of apostate. Telltale Atheist went over this very recently. When you look at its translations throughout history, it actually means runaway slave. Somebody who runs away from religion is called an apostate, and they literally translate into a runaway slave.
I have 0 words.
That's very telling, though, isn't it? Like, think about somebody who's from the Mormon Church, or somebody who's a Jehovah's Witness, like he was. When you're in those like very heavy-handed religions, it's strange that he would require somebody too large to notice them. I am a tiny YouTuber, but you said it in caps, so I was able to notice. But I don't know if you're tuning into the YouTube chat as well. I know it would be very hard to do that on the phone. What I would probably recommend hopping on your laptop and looking at the YouTube chat on the laptop while doing the hangout on the phone, if you wanted to do that. If not, when we get to the question part,
if they excuse me, I'll do it. Yeah, I'll bust out my. Here we go. Hold on.
Okay, that's perfectly fine.
Marcus says, "Notice me."
Marcus. I see you, Marcus. I notice you.
Senpai noticed you.
Yes. That said, if there's anything I can say, parcel form, do not call me senpai. That was very strange.
You're right.
No, there was a comment. For some reason, it took parcel form's comments.
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling the stream. They don't know.
I was agreeing with you.
Okay. It took parcel form's comments, and it started spam filtering them for some reason. And I'm like, parcel form is one of my patrons. Do not spam filter that person. No. There are certain people that do not need it. I understand it was a joke. I'm joking as well. Believe me. I understand the whole notice me senpai meme.
Baby, you want to be a famous kitty?
Are you trying to grab Hylia?
Here. Baby. Famous kitty. We're gonna get famous for kitty views.
I guess we're grabbing Hylia. This is the cat that was tweeted out on my Twitter, and he does not want to be out there anymore. But like you were saying, like Hylia, go away. Like you were saying though, it is the most segregated moment in America at any point in time. As soon as you get to Sunday and everybody goes to their church of choice, it seems to be very racially segregated, and that is something that I've noticed.
Yeah. I'm reeling off the revelation of the origins of apostate. That's something.
It's very telling.
Yeah,
it's very on the nose. I'm
trying not to look ridiculous by looking at the camera and then reading
and looking at the chat.
Yeah, it's.
Believe me, since I don't have a double monitor setup, I'm actually bouncing between Facebook, the chat, and everywhere because I have to grab our topics off of Facebook, I have to grab the chat off of YouTube, and I have to grab the stream or the stream itself off of Google Hangouts. So I'm having to flip between all of these, and I'm so tempted to look at my phone because that would give me an extra screen, but then I wouldn't be looking at the audience, and it's really awkward.
Like you told me, pray about it.
What's up?
Like you told me, pray about it.
Yeah. If none of your technology is working, just try prayer. Just try prayer. See if and get back to me when it does. So yeah, like I said, the first major topic was lack of people in the skeptic color in the skeptic community. I guess it's not just really the just those who are nons, the non-religious. It's not just that it seems that there are less people of color in non-religious areas. It does seem like in the very vocal skeptic community, it's for the most part, it seems like we're just a bunch of dumb white guys.
It's not even that. It's I know people of color who are atheists. There are a few notable nuns. I guess you could call it, N-O-N-E, nuns, whatever. That are, you think of Samuel Jackson, D.L. Hughley, Killer Mike. These are all nuns. But they always put that. What drives me insane is they put that little caveat. They like, well, something put us here. They won't go the full. They won't go the full stretch. They hold on to that. Well, I'm spiritual. That's where I was about 5 or 6 years, 7 years ago. I'm spiritual. I don't believe in the God as he is commonly thought of, or that's in the Bible or any other religious text, but some ephemeral, some kind of force. Because I wasn't. I had 40 years, 40 plus years of this, pounded into me about the Bible and religion and the different stories, going all the way back to when I was, a toddler, going to Bible study and, all that, little kid. So I wasn't ready to let go of, that part because it had been so much of my life. And eventually, I just had to let it go because I got to think to myself, well, what are you doing? You're making excuses. Just admit to yourself that, when you die, it will be exactly as it was before you were born.
And it's going to bother you just as much.
It's going to bother you just as much.
Somebody
and the reason people will be sad is because they'll miss you. It's
yeah. I think one of the best ways that I've found to look at it, one of the most comforting ways, is that death is not scary. There's nothing scary about death. Dying is terrifying. The act of dying is the part that will get you. That's the terrifying part. Knowing that you're going to have to embrace nothingness. But once you're there, nothing to worry about. What are you?
Yeah.
I'm making myself a moderator.
You're making yourself a moderator.
I'm making myself a moderator.
Do you even know how to do that?
I looked it up.
That's scary. So obviously, this is the second time that Pam is hijacking my channel. The first time was when she voiced over Monica for my April Fool's video. Okay, I do need to get to the next thing.
Come on, you're such a buzzkill.
I'm such a buzzkill. I have to get to another topic.
Now I have to comment on one of your videos to become a moderator.
Oh darn!
Yeah.
You have to engage on one of my videos. How horrifying!
I know. I hate it.
That's terrible. I'm so sorry for you.
Unsubscribed.
3 people did that yesterday. That's fine. No, I'm not OCD about it. I know one of the next topics you wanted to get on, it ties into the last one, is how toxic your community seems to be. I guess what you mean by that is the people of color. How toxic that community seems to be on the terms of religiosity versus lack thereof. So do you want to speak on that? At least I assume so.
I was, because I got to thinking about it with a friend of mine, who's also black, and we finally arrived on, it's kind of like how terrible the black community is to the homosexual community.
Mm-hmm.
In general, it's pretty bad, but how terrible my community can be to the homosexual community. It's terrible. And of course, there's some historical basis. I'm not saying it's justified or right, but there are instances throughout history of how that deep-seated hatred existed. The situations where they would, it was called buck taming. I don't know if you're familiar with the term. Yeah, what they would do was, so what would happen is the master would emasculate the sort of the alpha slave, the big strong slave, the biggest, strongest slave, the one that was seen as a leader, the one that the other slaves looked up to.
So it's like the concept of going into a prison complex and finding the biggest, baddest guy and trying to show him who's boss.
Yeah, pretty much. And, sometimes they would either castrate him or they would rape him with some implement.
Basically make them feel like they were their bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Emasculate. And some of that comes from that. But, the rest of it is, I don't know, it's just the general sense that America has struggled with in that situation. And so then we kind of brought that, well, that's kind of like how, not having faith is now. You have the Black community, so much. You think about all the movies. You think about all the movies that where they would have the older heavyset Black woman, and she's shuffling through the movie, singing gospels or humming some old hymn, and that was a stereotype, and that kind of like lives on in the community. And so to get away from that, I know maybe it scares some folks, or it just seems so odd. Or one of the things I hate is, well, you're just trying to be like those white people. And I'm like, but they don't have an iron grip on reality. I don't understand how that's like being like somebody else. I don't see the evidence to believe in this.
It's very weird to me. So as just an aside, it was only in the 60s that we finally got rid of a lot of our Jim Crow laws and started actually allowing most of the rights that we know today are supposed to be for everybody, for people of color. And then as you go back, you see more and more rights being given, slowly but surely. It seems to me that the Black community has never had a good, at least in America, hasn't had a good history with any type of supreme authority in America. So it seems very strange to me that on the whole, there's this need within that community to cling to a God that represents a supreme authority in the exact same way that the American government did when it was being oppressive.
Yeah. It's kind of, that is super ironic. And like I said, that's what I said, there are people in the community who are without faith, but they go through the motions and pretend that, they go to church. I have friends on Facebook who, while I'll get the virulent responses on Facebook to one of my random posts, I'll have someone that says, don't tell anybody, but I totally agree with you. I said, but you just posted all these scriptures, the other day.
That's I know, like but somebody being in the clergy project, though.
Yes, I heard about that.
Where
they just it becomes a part of your daily routine, part of your life, and I don't know. I guess some people just have a hard time letting it go, or they're afraid of the backlash. Either they've heard stories of what happened, or they're just afraid of what happened. They come out to their husband or they come out to their wife, say, "Hey, why don't you go to church without me this Sunday? It's not for me." That could very well end a marriage. I mean, and then
we have
what part of the country you're in, you go to court and you easily get custody of your kids, depending on the judge, depending on what part of the country it is. Say, hey, this person is a devil worshiping so and so. Refuses to go to church, says there is no God. I can't have my kids around that. Grant me custody. I mean, I could very easily see that happening.
Yeah, and I understand that, because there's actually a lot of people who, if you've been a theist for, say, 45 years, 40 years, 50 years, even 20 like I was, it feels really weird to not have that community anymore when you leave it. So
yeah,
it seems like in many cases, people will still just kind of compartmentalize that part of their brain that accepts church. That way they can have community. What are you doing?
He burned himself.
Oh. Yeah, pain is bad. Our roommate is cooking in the kitchen right over there, and he just burnt himself, so I don't know how to feel or what to say.
It was hard not to yell. Very hard.
He's being a very good sport about it. Yeah, it seems that once you go through the motions, it's very weird to try to break away, because you're used to that routine every day. You're used to, hey, it's Sunday, it's time for me to get up, it's time for me to go to church, even if you don't necessarily believe anymore. I know that there's a lot of, I forget their names, but there's some people who Richard Dawkins name drops who are atheists, but they consider themselves social churchgoers because that's where they get their community. I guess I was kind of lucky in that regard for me, because when I left the community, it really didn't bother me because I still had, for all intents and purposes, I still had Yu-Gi-Oh! I had card games. So I still had a very large community that I was a part of. I never felt that piece of me go away. That piece of me was always there. It was just somewhere else.
Yeah, I think you hit on something. I think you hit on something that's really. I think you hit on something that's really relevant. That's really true. Going back to the toxicity, of the community. That is where you even going back to Dr. King. That the church was where the community would gather to plan for comfort, to try to seek justice. The pastor was looked upon as one of the more powerful men of the community.
Yeah, everybody wanted to be in his spot.
Yeah, everybody wanted to be next to him some kind of way, and man, you really hit on that. And for some people, they have no other community. Even their group of friends would more likely all go to the same church, and they didn't really have another community outside of that.
Yeah, and it's weird because see, you've got communities like the Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses who make it a point to ostracize you from the community the minute that you're done with it. The minute that you say that you are no longer a Christian, or at least not their type of Christian, you are ostracized, you are shunned, you are taken out of the equation completely by force. But within a lot of communities that are a lot softer, a lot of your more liberal Christians who take passages of the Bible more as just, this is a moral guidance, this isn't real history. But you have those types of Christians. The minute that you say you're an atheist, you're not actively shunned, but you're also never really looked at the same way ever again. So you still effectively lose that community.
Yes. Yeah, I've experienced that. Not so much the community, because I left the community, like I said, years ago, but just people that either I grew up with, people that I've known for years. It's like all of a sudden I'm a different person. Like, bro, I'm still the same person today that I was yesterday.
Yeah,
I'm
nothing
just
changed.
filling you in on this little piece about myself. And I'm still a good person. My kids are doing fine. They still love me, and my grandbabies love me, and everything is fine. I'm just letting you know what's going on in my mind, and some people just can't handle that.
Yeah, it's very strange. I don't. Anybody who watches my content knows that for the most part I try not to be terribly demeaning, but in live casts my filter kind of goes off a little bit. So I guess the way that I would tell it to somebody if I was in a conversation with them and they were trying to actively shun me, I would say I'm still the same person I was yesterday. The only difference is we have a different imaginary friend. Like it's a really blunt and harsh way to say it, but if somebody's willingly ostracizing you and cutting you off, it seems like it's almost fair to start using the more demeaning pronouns there for God. Like, obviously, you can just say, I don't believe in God and you do, but that obviously sounds like it carries a lot more weight than it really does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to mention, there's also a huge difference between believing in God and believing in the Bible. I forget who pointed it out. It might have been Aaron Raw, honestly. It was either Aaron Raw or Dillahuntty, I'm not sure. But one of them explained that there's this really strange phenomenon in Christianity where you can't separate deity from doctrine. You can't. It seems very hard for people to accept that God is real, if they do, while also not necessarily taking everything in the Bible. And I think I think you and I can agree, the Bible's a really toxic book. Like, it really is.
Godless Island has a point.
Says he's not heavy-handed, and yet he carries a hand. Pam, grab my axe.
Are you sure you want me to grab it?
You know what? Iowa needs this as a point.
Okay.
Grab my freaking axe.
I'm sorry, I'm passing in front of the camera.
Fair enough.
So cliche.
And so I think, a lot of the toxicity, not just in the Black community, but just in the Christian community in general, a lot of the toxicity comes from that book.
Yes.
Like, truly and honestly, you've got people who will quote Leviticus till the end of days, and
carrying this one hand is not fun.
Well, only the parts that they agree. They'll quote only the parts they agree with.
Fair.
To show it fully off.
Okay, Godless Iowan.
I am the size of Suris for reference. Banana for scale.
I do not quite have my hammer yet, but I do have my axe that I made. So, are you happy now? Are you happy now?
But yeah, like you're saying about Leviticus, they'll quote it all day, but they only quote the parts that they won't quote the parts that make them uncomfortable. They only quote the parts that they like or that they can use to beat you over the head with.
Which is really awkward, because those people who quote Leviticus will not quote Hebrews afterwards. And Hebrews denounces everything that's said in Leviticus. Like, it specifically talks about the laws in older books being tarnished out. It's really weird that they won't quote that book, but they'll grab from Leviticus, which is the hateful one, just because they feel like they need to be hateful. There's a reason why anybody who follows me on my Twitter and sees my banner, there's a reason that it's a hand picking a cherry. There's a whole reason for that.
Cherry picking. Yes.
For anybody who hasn't caught into that joke, that is literally a biblical cherry picking joke. What's also funny is that it seems that when you cherry pick the Bible as an atheist to grab those little nuggets of hatred to show people what's in their book, they blame you for cherry picking, but then they'll cherry pick verses to contradict you and not even realize that there's a massive level of irony involved there. Not to mention, go on.
For me, for discussing that, again, going back to the toxicity, in conversations with my former friends and family members, they say they use it. They say, you're just cherry picking, but I'm like, it shouldn't matter. I could go, if you pick up an algebra textbook or the dictionary, you can cherry pick a word out of there, and regardless of what you cherry pick, it will still be true.
Yes.
And you just told me that you believe the Bible is the spoken word of God and everything in it is true. So it shouldn't matter what I take out of it.
No, it shouldn't.
It's true because you said it's true. I'm conceding this one point to you that you said that everything in here is true, that you believe it. So I should be able to grab something and show you, and you should agree that you agree with it, or you should admit that you agree with it because you just said that you believe everything in the Bible.
Not to mention, I don't know if you follow Pastor Greg Locke at all, the meme lord himself. He has this format where it's almost like my Let's Have a Conversation series, where he'll say an anecdote that happened in his everyday life, and then he'll try to preach something afterwards. And he almost always he films his stuff in landscape mode, and not landscape, in portrait mode. And it's really low quality, and he's honestly a meme. I've got 2 videos of him on my channel. He's a very hateful person, but people like him say that there are no contradictions in the Bible at all. Whenever you tell them, there's 3,000 contradictions in there, they're like, no, there's no contradictions at all. But if you can cherry pick some data and they can cherry pick some data, and they are in an effort to prove a different point, then you're literally proving within that conversation that the Bible has contradictions. By trying to contradict each other with the same book, you're proving that. You're proving that immediately.
Yeah.
Which I find is very ironic, and I think that leads to a lot of the toxicity too. because I think Matt Dillahunty said it best. If you want to figure out what's wrong with the First Baptist Church, you can either go to the Second Baptist Church, or you can go to the second pew in the First Baptist Church and figure out what's wrong with the first pew.
Man, just dredging up so many bad memories of the countless Sundays and Wednesdays, either going to church or going to devotion or Bible study, and as I was starting to, I guess in a sense, wake up and come out of that, the questions just started swirling around in my head. They'd always been in the back of my mind, but I would push them out because you told just to have more faith, just to pray about it.
Yeah.
But it just kept coming to the fore, and I'm reading this, and I'm quoting scripture, and stomping and dancing and nodding my head as the preacher went on, and I'm like, that's not right. That's not how any of this works. But to say that out loud, oh my God, that would be almost suicide.
Yeah. It's and I want to say that I feel bad that you went through that, but I went through the exact same things in my private school. So it's less that I feel bad and more that I empathize. Yeah. That I had all the exact same things happen. And for Beej, whenever we get to that point, DubKDad was a Baptist. The Pentecostal we have in the room is Godless Iowan. He's the one that can speak in tongues on command. That said, Dub K, if you haven't yet, check out Godless Iowan's channel. He has an entire series called His Journey Away from Faith, and you might empathize with a lot of the stuff in there. I think it would be a good watch.
I'm gonna have to check it out. That sounds pretty good. Yeah, I'm always interested. Like when I have the chance to get on the YouTubes, I search stuff about people who that's how I found Holy Kool-Aid, because I usually search people describing their journey away from the church or away from faith, just for some reassurance after getting beat on. Yeah. I try not to be. I'm not very aggressive, in my atheism. I'm not really interested in debating someone who's a theist, because I feel like I already lose. They already have the mindset that I used to have, and I remember how I was when someone would try to talk to me, and I had to wake up on my own. And yeah. I know that no matter what someone said to me, it would only make me double down on what I believe.
Reinforce the walls.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was like when my friend tried to show me Zeitgeist, I just felt like my faith was being tested, and it didn't help that when you actually research that movie, half the information in it is just flagrantly false. But even taking all of it as true, it felt like it was just reinforcing my faith. Like I was having to put up a bulwark against it. Like I was actively having to defend it instead of letting it slowly just wane away. Honestly, it seems like a lot of people, they don't have a snap moment where they're just like, God isn't real. It seems more like they just kind of revisit it later on in life and they go, do I even really believe that? And then a few weeks later they go, no, probably not. And it just seems like there's a more organic journey away for a lot of people. It's usually not a snap decision. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of how, like I said, for me, the questions slowly started to just pound more to the front of my consciousness. And then, like I said, I had that moment where it was just like, no, I can't do this anymore. But it wasn't, it was building up to that. And then I was finally pushed over the edge. Someone asked if I was a Pentecostal.
No, I went ahead and went ahead and said that you aren't a Pentecostal, you were a Baptist, and that's when I went ahead and talked about Iowan, because Iowan used to be a Pentecostal preacher, actually.
Oh wow! I'm sorry.
That's exactly the same way I think. Whenever somebody says something like that, I'm just like,
let me tell you a quick story about Black Pentecostals. And I know people say, "Oh my God, why is this rape?" But I mean, this is the life I live. I'm black, so I'm gonna talk about black stuff.
I mean, that's why we're here. I don't have the perspective you do.
If I had ever had a channel, I would upset so many people because I can only speak it from my perspective. But anyway, black Pentecostals. Let me tell you. So in the black Pentecostal church, you will see primarily women and children. You will rarely see men in the black Pentecostal church, and you will see young adult men, but they aren't particularly, how do you say, assertive. If you understand what I'm saying, they're not particularly assertive. And a lot of those women in the black Pentecostal church are single or divorced. And I don't understand what it is. My cousin is Pentecostal. And I remember we went to his church and there was a lot of laying on hands, the laying of hands and the just the loud in your face screaming and screeching. And I don't know. And I was what, maybe 17, and I had to go outside. I was like, I can't. No, this is too much for me. You know, I'm Baptist, and that's not too far from Pentecostal, but even still.
You're used to hearing the preacher. I'd imagine you're used to hearing the preacher on the stage yelling fire and brimstone for an hour and a half.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or more. The little thing where they do the Baptist preacher, he'll get to preaching, then he'll take off his watch and put it to the side. That's when you're like, oh my God, here we go.
That's when you know that the day is not over.
Yeah. But yeah, even that was too much for me. I mean, because at least the preacher would stay in the pulpit and he wouldn't start walking down the aisles and touching people. And I just
That sounded horrible. I know you meant something completely different.
Somebody said it's fairly the same in most white Pentecostal churches. Lots of divorced women and young men, but exactly. See, he knows. Well, he was a preacher. He knows. He knows. I'm definitely going to check out his channel. He knows.
Oh yeah, Godless Iowan is a really good channel. He's able to produce twice the content I'm able to produce, which really upsets me.
Suck him off a little harder, baby.
No, I'm saying that his quality's lower.
Oh man.
No. And yeah, Parcel Form, what I was talking about was his last upload was about his when his house burned down. But no, Godless Iowan's good, even if he doesn't use motion backgrounds like I do, which literally takes no more effort than using a
It obviously uses more effort because it takes time away from his obvious pear that he so enjoys to eat.
His obvious pear?
Yeah. Is
that a potato?
No, Mrs. Snarky called herself a pear, and he's like, I like eating that pear, Lamau.
Well, apparently she talks to his serpent, so... DubKDad, just so you know... Just a bit more. So you know, Mrs. Snarky is Godless Iowan's other half. So that's the tongue-in-cheek jokes between the two of them in the chat are because of that.
Okay, because I was like sitting here, my jaw was dropping. I'm like, what's going on, man?
No, I have the best subscribers and the best audience. For some reason, I don't seem to get a lot of hate comments. Now I get private messages that are hateful. Those are where I get my death threats.
Dude, I've seen some of the comment section. Sometimes when I decide to catch cancer, I'll scroll down to the comment section, and I'll be like, "Oh, I got to get back out of the comment section."
See, when I want to catch cancer, I just buy a modern Yu-Gi-Oh deck and try to play in a tournament. And
oh my God, Yu-Gi-Oh! Okay,
me and you need to actually play Goat sometime. That is a thing we need to do.
You're not ready, son.
I'm not ready.
You're not ready, son.
Oh no, I realize.
I haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh in years, but you're not ready.
I will catch those hands. I have my Goat deck literally like 5 feet away. We'll have to see who catches whose hands at that point, but that'll be for another day. That's completely off topic. I run Dark Magician in my Goat deck to troll people, sir. You're not ready.
No, yeah, okay. I can see.
I literally sneak one in. And 9 times out of 10, it's graceful charity fodder, but it's there for lulz.
We don't talk about the chat between Snarky and myself.
You know,
I am. I keep looking at this. It's so hilarious.
the best chats. So I guess the next topic to get into, unless we want to segue into children's card games, which I'm totally fine with.
No, we'll stay on topic.
The next topic is coexisting with people of faith. Was the next thing you wanted to talk about, and I have some stories about that, but this isn't about my stories. This is about yours, so I definitely want to hear what you've got.
Well, it was basically a question. How do you do it? It's because it usually devolves into the other person being snide and say, "Well, I'll pray for you," or
"Well, I'll think for you."
Yeah. We'll write that one down. I like that one. Yeah. But yeah, that's what it devolves. That's what it devolves into. So again, like my family are hyper religious, you might say.
Mine are as well. Mine are as well.
And so yeah, it could be pretty rough. They can turn any situation that's like non-religious and then turn it on to, but you don't believe in God, so it's like, okay, but we were just talking about, we
were talking about silverware. What the fuck does my believing in God have to do with that?
Exactly, and I'm just like, I don't know. The chat's pretty lit. Maybe they have ideas of how to coexist. How do you? Because I try to be respectful. I've learned to keep my views to myself in public, unless I'm asked.
And that's kind of how I sit as well. We have a very vocal Christian at my workplace. Like when he comes to clock in, he has his phone blaring gospel music, and he lays Billy Graham CDs and tracts around the workplace for people to pick up. So yes, I understand the struggle. I have a coworker like that. He knows.
But why Billy Graham? He's a
hateful son of a bitch.
Cancer incarnate, man. That dude.
I mean, the difference between him and cancer is at least cancer grows on you.
And it's curable in some instances.
In some instances, yes. No, truthfully, I can.
It's treatable. It's treatable.
You could be a fork in the next life, according to Parcel Form. Scottless Iowan says it's very hard to coexist with religious people. They have no issue spreading their garbage, and yet I have to keep quiet about not believing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's honestly true. DubKDad, do you watch Steve McRae's stuff at all, by the way?
No, I don't. I don't have a lot of time to watch anything. I work 12 plus hours a day. I come
You're
home.
A store manager still, right?
Huh?
You're a store manager still, right?
Yeah. So I'm there to
grindstone all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
Well, basically,
I come home and I knock out.
Go to sleep and try to exist for the next day.
Yeah.
Well, the thing I was going to bring up on one of his recent streams was with Shannon Q, and it was with White Engine and one other person. And one of the questions that she asked them was, why do you have an issue with atheists or anti-theists talking about their message when you guys are allowed to spout yours literally all day, every day, from pulpits, from political standpoints?
Tax-free.
You can, tax-free. Completely tax-free. You can do it all day, every day, but the minute an atheist starts talking, the minute that they start saying, maybe teaching gays flying lessons off buildings in the middle of Saudi Arabia isn't a good idea, the minute that they start saying something bad about religion, it seems like the I guess the God glasses is what is. The God glasses go on, and the devil horns pop up then. And it's really strange.
Well, think of it like this, right? When right? And I don't mean to chime in here. Obviously, it's not my stream, but it's just a thought that, and this was also in the Atheist Edge video that we did, and I also brought it up there. Religion is like an abusive household. They will beat you and beat you and beat you and drive it into you that you can't say, you know, the word pasta is the example that I used in that video. If I was living in an abusive home and every time I said the word pasta, they would hit me, I would learn not to say the word pasta. I would learn to fear the word pasta.
Yes.
And that's what they do in churches. They make you fear the word atheist. They make you fear anything that has to do with...
They make you conflate it with the devil.
Like, it's very much like if I was to raise my hand at you and you were to flinch. That's exactly what religion does to all of the population of the earth. No matter what religion you're into, no matter what part of it you belong to, whether you're not in it, you're in it, whatever, like, it very much turns you from being a normal person into someone who's afraid to walk outside without carrying their Bible.
And it gives you a bad case of Stockholm syndrome, because
really
even though you've been abused by it for so long, you
And
start thinking that it's what you need.
And if your preacher goes, oh, you need to come in the church. Everybody that normally comes to this church, we need to come to this church because the Antichrist is coming tomorrow. We're going to lock our doors and we're not going to eat for 7 days.
Witnesses.
We're not going to eat for 7 days. And then they do that and all of those people die. But it was for the sake of religion, so it wasn't murder.
It's like Heaven's Gate. We're going to have everybody drink cyanide-laced Kool-Aid and hop up to UFOs and, oh no, they all died. Oops. Speaking of the Atheist Edge thing, they did request that we do some shout-outs for cool points and apparently hand jobs. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to manage that all the way from Texas. But
must be run really long arm.
April 28th, they're going to have a special guest, Truth Surge, at 19 CDT. So go ahead and go check out their channel. They did an interview with me as well whenever I was at Faithless Forum. They're honestly a pretty cool group of guys. Definitely go check them out. But back on to the topic at hand, I definitely think that it is very hard when you're told not to say what you think. But it's very easy for somebody, at least in most nations, it's very easy for somebody to say what they think about religion. And then when you say that you're an atheist, like Pam said, there's this knee-jerk reaction that, oh, they have to hate you. But atheists don't seem to have that knee-jerk reaction towards theists. Most of us used to be theists.
Yes. I think that's probably what it is, because we can, if you were formerly a theist, you have the empathy. You understand where they're coming from. You remember what it was like to have that need for that, like you said earlier, the support system, the community. And for me, I realized, well, they haven't made the journey yet. Maybe they don't see, or maybe they won't allow themselves to see the disconnect. Like I said, what snapped me out of it, how you pray and pray and pray for that job, and you get the job, and you're sitting here, you're thanking God for the job. You know, never mind the fact that the little boy down the street, was, hit by a car, or
confirmation bias.
That you stepped on your way to your brand new job, you stepped over, 3 or 4 homeless people who, by whatever reason, no one cares about them anymore.
I've been requested to be on camera several times, so
she's being pulled.
I will come over here for a little bit and come with us.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. It's definitely a matter of confirmation bias. You see the hit, you say, "Oh, I got the job," but you don't see the thousands of misses. You don't see
it's also
every horrible thing that's happened.
It's also that thing with karma, where like you're going to attribute every good thing with the fact that you gave some kid $1, when in fact it's just because like, hi Iowan, it's because you took the time out of your day and you made an effort towards that good thing. Whether or not you did something good beforehand is irrelevant.
Yeah, it's the law of averages.
Not to mention I think the most disgusting thing with karma is that if are you showing off here?
He said very cool piercings. So I wanted to show them off.
I think the worst thing with karma, let's say that karma was real. If we just give that karma is real. So everything you receive is something that you deserve, and everything that you get and give is based entirely on what you've already gotten and given throughout life, right? That's kind of your general thing with karma.
Hi, Parcel.
What that would mean is, let's say you're a
Purple. No, I'm just doing it to be.
You're doing it to be very mean.
So I think someone's conquered their camera fright.
Yes, it seems so. It's weird that you're camera shy, but you'll operate a camera for hours.
That's because I get to be behind the camera.
Fair.
I'm sitting here right now looking at myself. That's why I'm looking at you and I'm looking at the chat. I don't look at me because, like,
fair.
I will get off the camera.
I guess the point that I was thinking about karma essentially says that if you are a 5-year-old and a pedophile ruins your life forever and scars you for life, you must have done something to deserve it. That's how karma works.
The worst, I was in foster care for a little bit, and on the tone of karma, we had this one girl in the system with me that was abused very much like I was. And when I asked her, well, you know, why are you here? Do they think it's your fault? And she said, yeah, my dad said he was doing it because I took the last cookie. And it's very much one of those things where kids are taught from a young age to fear things, and in that kind of scenario, you're taught that you're the reason.
Yeah.
And it's very much like religion. Well, you're the one that sinned, and you're the reason why, you know, Jesus had to die. When, what did he die for? He sacrificed himself to himself, for himself, because everybody was made in his image.
Because of a problem that he started.
He created. And then he said April Fools and came back to life. Like, bro, you stay dead.
You
cheated.
Weekend. What,
yeah, I think Matt Dillahunty said it best. What did God really lose? If Jesus died on the cross, what did he sacrifice? His weekend? Because if he came back to life, he didn't really die. He just went to sleep for a weekend. He took a really long nap.
Yep.
And what?
He cheated.
He really did cheat. Not to mention, it's really weird that you've got, this is kind of off topic, but it's really weird that Christianity has this huge problem with magic and necromancy. When, if you think about it, Yahweh is a necromancer. He brought Jesus back to life. Jesus is a necromancer. He brought Lazarus back to life. And BT dubs, there's no dictionary definition. There's no dictionary difference between magic and miracle. The only difference between a magic and a miracle is who did it.
Some people would argue. Some people would argue with you about that.
Yeah, they can argue with Merriam-Webster. Then they don't have to argue with me. They can fucking write into Merriam-Webster. That's their job. They can do that. I don't care. You know what? Actually, I'll just take him to R and Raw. Fuck it, take it. Have him talk to him about it. He does it for a living. Jesus was God, and God is infinite. And it wasn't even a weekend. It was less than the equivalent of stubbing your toe on a pillow.
That's true.
Fair. If God existed from the beginning till the end of time, then realistically, he didn't even really lose 3 days. He lost nothing.
It was like him hitting a door frame and then just kind of like writing himself.
Writing himself?
Writing.
Oh, I thought you meant he was being very masturbatory.
No. Although
there is a Trinity. There's 3 of them.
Yeah,
does that make it an orgy?
That makes it a threesome.
That's one step away.
I like that analogy that the godless Iowan uses. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, if he's infinite, then it wasn't even really a weekend that he lost. Like, really, what did he lose? Not to mention, if Jesus died, went to heaven, and then just came back afterwards, was he even really dead? If he just died, ascended to heaven, and then came back down, because when you die, you don't wait. You don't sit there in your body. That's not how the religion works. Then really, did he even give up his weekend? He just went and had a fucking vacation with his dad for a little bit, and then came back down to go back to work.
It wasn't even a vacation. His mom has custody, and he saw him for 1 weekend.
Daddy Yahweh, can I come live with you for a weekend?
Yeah, son, you're just gonna die. Yes, sir. To get away from this bitch.
Yes, sir. Mother Earth hates me anyway. Which is horrible, but I mean, honestly, if we're going to take a book that tells you to stone people to death for cheating...
And literally was built off of, incestuous acts, then yeah,
I mean, okay, so who in the chat, and you as well, DubKDad, who here is familiar with the Curse of Ham? After the story of Noah?
The Curse of Ham.
Yes, Curse of Ham. Godless Iowan probably knows a lot about this.
Oh, no. Hello.
No, I don't.
I don't know exactly. Okay, so obviously, yeah, Godless Iowan's familiar with Curse of Ham. So, Iowan, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Curse of Ham in the Bible happened when Noah got really drunk, passed out naked on a hill, got a stiffy while he was drunk, and then his son Ham said, "That, I want that." And his son Ham raped him in his sleep, and when Noah woke up and realized what happened, he pointed to his son and said, "You and all of your descendants are cursed for eternity." And that is the Curse of Ham. Because he was raped by his child after he was drunk. There is so much incest in the Bible.
The Godless Iowan talked about his grandfather, how they got black people. That there was two stories. There was also the story about how
story of Cain.
Yep.
How the serpent, how Eve had kids with the serpent after the Garden of Eden. And that's also how black people came to be.
There's also Cain. The Mormons believe that the mark of Cain was actually turning Cain black.
Yeah.
And when he went to breed with the people of Nod, apparently it led to a bunch of black people. But they knew nothing about genetics, if that was the case, because
I find it so hilarious how all these different groups have these crazy ass explanations of how black people came to be, and it's like, bro, do you realize that when your ancestors became the color you were, they were nowhere near the origins of where the Bible came from. And the people in the Bible were closer to my skin tone than they were to your skin tone. So what the fuck are you talking about? That drives me.
The amount of illiteracy that it takes to read the Bible and take any of it as fact is staggering. Because honestly, you have to know nothing about population science, nothing about genetics.
Good night, gonna go for it. Have a good rest.
See you, Peter. I do not remember the chapter and the verse, but Iowan would probably be able to help out with that a little more. That's more his spiel than mine. But what's really weird to me is that if you take somebody who knows anything about population genetics, knows what a genetic bottleneck is, but they accept the Bible as literal fact, they're not realizing that Adam and Eve would create a genetic bottleneck before we even get to Noah. And then when we get to Noah, his his handful of sons and their wives would still create a genetic bottleneck.
Didn't he have a son and didn't have a wife? It was just like 2 or 3 of his boys had wives. Then he had the extra son, and it wasn't a woman there for him. He ended up marrying his niece or something. And I'm like, that's scary.
The 100 subscriber video that I'm actually in the middle of writing. I've been in the middle of writing forever because I'm a terrible procrastinator. One of the things that's going to be dealing with is actually the story of Noah. Basically, how it seems that anytime God does a mass genocide, the only people that he seems to leave alive are the drunk, incestuous assholes. Kills everyone. Noah, you can stay alive. Why are your kids fucking each other? Kills everyone in Sodom and Gomorrah. Leaves Lot alive. Lot, why are your daughters fucking you? Also, why are you guys so drunk you're letting this happen?
Doesn't it? And I don't know if I'm mistaken or not, because I have not read the Bible as intimately as you have. Doesn't it say in the story of Noah, after they disembark from the ark, don't they pass around the wives, including the mother of the children, to create a diverser, like, field?
I don't think it doesn't go into
Because I
specifics
know
on
that's
that.
what I was taught at church one time.
We're also taught
that they exchanged wives, and like the mother got in on it, and she just kind of like messed around with her sons.
Well, there's also stuff where we were taught in church about like how Noah tried to preach to everybody that God was going to destroy the world, and they laughed at him. That's not in the Bible at all.
No,
there's not a single passage that talks about that. There's a lot of things that are in the Bible that just aren't there. They just aren't there. I know we got really off the topic of, I know that is speculated with people who try to explain away the genetic issues of incest. Yeah, that's what I figured. Iowin is way more versed in the Bible than I am. He's got a series called Pentecostal Bible Study where he goes over stuff like that. But I know we got really off the topic of coexisting with people of faith, but when we start talking about the things that people of faith believe, I guess it's really hard to stay on topic because there's so much laughable nonsense there.
It is. It really is. But it's really helpful though to be able to get stuff, off my chest. Because again, there's not a lot of people to talk to about it. There's and then get information to make sure that I'm not crazy. You know what I'm saying? Because I have these thoughts in my head, and I don't have a lot of people to bounce the ideas off of. And sometimes I just think I'm crazy.
Yeah,
so,
you're definitely not crazy. We have an entire community built around here telling the other people that they're crazy. The difference between us and them is that they have voices in their head and they call it God. We have voices in our head and we call it schizophrenia.
Yeah.
That's the biggest difference. A lot of pagans like to believe that they are children of Lilith. And that's true. Honestly, if you take the story of Adam and you backpedal it a little bit, Lilith is actually in some of the original stories of Adam.
Well, it's also speculated that Lilith was the first bride of Adam, and Adam rejected her, and she fled the garden in kind of like hatred of him.
There's also speculation that she influenced the serpent as well.
There's speculation that she was the serpent, that she coerced herself with Satan.
The older depictions of the serpent shows a naga, because it's a woman, Lilith. But I know that
what's so funny about that is this goes to show how much each religion just blatantly copies the ones before it. Is just
the flood is totally not in the Gilgamesh. What are you talking about? I have no idea
totally
what you're talking about.
Story, bro. Original story, bro.
It's an original character. Do not copy.
Hey, they changed the names.
Yeah, they changed the names. There's no copyright infringement in the 3000 BCs. No copyright infringement then. Ezra can do whatever he wants with those texts. I know we ended up hopping off topic, but I think we can very, very hastily and horribly segue into the next topic, which was the last topic you wanted to talk on. That was why does it seem that it's only okay to criticize Western religions over, say, your more Eastern religions? I'd assume you're talking about Buddhism, Jainism, and religions like that.
No, I'm talking about Islam specifically, really.
Okay.
I don't. It's I find it funny. I used to be. You and I spoke about this. I used to be a really avid listener of Sam Harris.
Yes.
Like I'm subscribed to his podcast. I listen to all the time. I try to catch his talks whenever I can find them. Someone illegally uploads them to whatever.
Did you read The Moral Landscape as well?
No, I didn't go that far because I can only deal with the way he speaks. I can't imagine myself reading.
Fair.
Reading. I can imagine him writing the way he speaks, and that's just a bridge too far. I can't.
That's completely understandable, especially with, like, for me, I listen to audiobooks. So thankfully, RN Raw voices his audiobooks. so I get to hear him for his audiobooks, and that's wonderful. But I don't know if I could handle Harris for that. It's not that and like you said, we talked about this. I don't have anything necessarily against Harris, but I do think that he's a bit of a doormat.
But see, that was what I was getting into it. For me, he brings a lot of it onto himself. And I don't know, it's not so much that you have to walk on eggshells when it comes to criticizing Islam, but it has been done. It can be done. But it's just that sometimes the way he and others do it, they have a particular vehemence in their voice when they do it that they seem to only reserve for Islam. And if he were to go hard on Christianity as he does Islam, then well, yeah, that's how he is with every religion. But just the particular way that he and some others criticize it, you know, makes it bad. And I mean, there's like I said, there's so much to criticize about the religion, because to me, a lot of it is so much more toxic because they still kill motherfuckers for not believing. Whereas, you know, Christianity for the most part has gotten away from that. But Islam still kills people.
I'd like to correct you there. It's not Christianity that's gotten away from it. It's Christians who've gotten away from it. I wouldn't give the religion that much credence.
Fair.
I'd say Western society evolved there. Christianity just happened to get dragged kicking and screaming.
It did. And I can't remember, someone said that, maybe it was Sam Harris, who said that Islam needs a reformation. Now, see, now when he talks like that, you know, I can get behind him, because when he's making legitimate criticisms of their beliefs and what he feels that should happen, those are legitimate. But I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, because I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable criticizing things that I don't have any experience in. Like, you won't hear me saying a bunch of negative things about Islam or Jainism or Buddhism or Taoist or any of that, because I have zero experience. I don't really associate with people who are Jainists or Buddhists or any of those other religions. I have a few friends who are Muslim, and surprisingly, they're more accepting of my atheism than people in my Christian family. But I don't know. I don't have any experience. I don't have really, any life experience or a bunch of knowledge of the situations, of their situations to criticize it. I feel most comfortable talking about what I personally know. So maybe my uncomfortableness of criticizing Islam extends from that. I'm not, or never was I never Muslim, so
I guess
criticizing it to the degree that some people do makes me uncomfortable.
I guess the thing that I would recommend there, and it's what I've been doing, I would say go ahead and download a copy of the Quran to your phone, and go ahead. There's a version of it that I use that actually will play it through audio if you don't have time to sit down and read it. I would highly suggest going through and reading the Quran. It's about 4/5 the size of the New Testament of the Bible, so it's not as long of a read. Though I will say that it is a more boring read. It is one of the few books I've read that has made the Bible seem exciting by comparison.
I've actually read through lots of the surahs in the Quran, but still, like I said, there's plenty to criticize. I mean, Muhammad jumping on a Pegasus and riding it. I mean, come on now,
splitting the moon in half.
Yeah, okay, or any of the other BS in there. These are legitimate criticisms.
Charlie horse. That was painful.
To me, criticizing those aspects of the sheer ridiculousness, that those are legitimate criticisms. I don't know. I just have a problem with sometimes it feels like, I don't really know how to put it into words. It just kind of makes me cringe when I hear some people talk about it. And, again, the topic was more of a question. Well, why do I feel, why is it hard?
Why is it hard to criticize Islam?
Yeah, why is it hard to criticize Islam?
I think personally, and this is coming from somebody who talks with people who are from the religion a lot, and from multiple different sides. There are some people who I've talked to, and Pam has seen them. And if Audrey is still listening in on this, she knows who I'm talking about as well. Kublai, also known as Musa. He was the first death threat that I actually incurred. There's a screenshot of one of my conversations with him in one of my videos I did criticizing Islam. So I've heard from the extreme fundamentalist side of Islam that says that I'm criticizing Islam. You're going to take punishment from it. You're going to die. But I've also heard from the other side of people who, like Audrey, who literally just subscribe to my channel to hear my arguments because they want to hear it, but they're very much Muslims. So I've heard from both sides, and I've read the Quran, and I've gone, or not all of it, and I've gone through a few of the hadiths, and what I've found is that when it comes to Christianity, people who leave Christianity are very comfortable criticizing it because they know it. They've spent decades in it, 9 times out of 10. They spent decades in the religion, and they have no issue, or they spent decades with the religion around them. But most of your countries that are predominantly Muslim are pseudo-theocracies, or they're full-on theocracies. So you've got places like Saudi Arabia or Iran or Iran that are theocracies. There are politics involved, but they revolve around the Quran. Or you've got places like Egypt that are pseudo-theocracies, where the government is separate from the religion, but the religion influences the government so much that there isn't much of a difference. And in places like that, it's very hard to criticize Islam. So it's very hard to hear the counter-apologetics to Islam in Islam. Whereas in America, or in most Western society, we have freedom of speech. So when we want to criticize the religion that we've been exposed to the most, we can do so. I can criticize Christianity all day long.
Good night, Mrs. Snarky. Good night, God bless Iowan.
We'll see you guys later. Whereas when it comes to Islam, I had to actually go out of my way to research it before I could criticize it. As I knew I wanted to tackle it on my channel, but I wasn't. I kind of felt like you did. I wasn't comfortable tackling it unless I was taking the time out of my day to research it and figure that out. And Tanner, if you would like to help me tackle Mormonism at some point, I would love to get with you on that, because I have yet to touch Mormonism. But honestly, as somebody who thinks that everybody should have a lovely pair of magical underwear, yes, I would love to tackle that at some point. And for everybody who's hopping off the stream because it is late, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys the next time I do one of these, whenever that is.
I do want to say real quick while we had a pause in that, is that there is a gentleman named Tanner in the chat who you said hello to and welcome to the stream. He is remnant of Mormon faith. He is currently out of that faith. But I did want to bring up the fact that while we are talking about Islam, and specifically the Islamic religion, I do believe that we should include the Mormon religion, or at least the Mormon take on religion, because there was a law in Missouri. Again, we've already spoken about this on the Atheist Edge, but there was a law in Missouri for
the Mormon Execution Act,
where if you were a Mormon, if you even believed in the Mormon faith but didn't, you weren't actively saying that you were a Mormon, people could shoot you. If you were walking down the street and you had the word Mormon just in tiny text on your t-shirt, you were...
Yeah, you could be legally executed.
Yeah, you could be executed right then and there.
Yeah, which is...
Thankfully,
horrible.
that has since been repealed, but in Missouri, there's still...
But it was only repealed in the early 70s.
And that's what I was going to reference, is that there's still a lot of smaller cities that still practice somewhat of that law, where when they see someone that's Mormon, or they or they even think or suspect that you're Mormon, they will come to your door, they will knock down your door, and they will beat you and your family until you repent against your faith and become Christians.
And it's horrible, and it's no different than what happens in Islamic countries when you say that I'm an atheist and they say, oh, well, we'll kill you if you don't reconvert.
And it's very, very much like Christians in Islamic countries. They're kicking down people's doors. They're taking people. Yes, most of those people actively want to leave the country, but they don't want to repent and become Christians. But because most of the soldiers, I say most as a fluid term, most of the soldiers are of some faith.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually Christianity, because this is an American country and Christianity really reigns
We are an
supreme.
American country?
Whatever. We are freedom.
We are freedom. We are the eagle.
America.
Well, it's just that so many soldiers are of Christian belief that some of the sergeants, and there have been a few stories here and there where they won't let people enter the U.S. without first repenting against the Islamic faith because of a terrorism.
Which is horrible, because you're
asking someone to give up their religion simply because they were in a war zone.
We are not a Christian nation. I don't know how many times I have to say this. We are a secular nation. We were founded by secularists. Most of them only went as far as deism, which is so far removed from any specific religion that I don't know why it's even a conversation still to this day.
And Staggerson Jags does point out a good point, is that the U.S. actually went to war
against Utah
to try and kill off Mormons.
Yep.
It was a really, really big thing in the Midwest where they just really, really went hardcore. Because I used to live in Missouri, and there were several people. I had to house one of my friends who was a Mormon, and her parents got brutally beat. And as she was going home, she texted me because she saw she saw townspeople at her home beating her family. Her little brother, her mother, her father, her older sister, and she asked me, can I come to your house? Can you please secure me? And I said,
can you give her asylum?
And I did, and I brought her to my house, and when the townspeople, because they saw her and they followed her to my house, I had to actually bar my door and get, things and put them in front of the doors just to keep them from coming inside and beating her and my family as well, because
you were housing them.
I was housing one, and it was very, very much, and I hate to use this reference because YouTube and it bad things, but it's very, very much like Nazi Germany, where if you were a Jew, they broke into your house and they beat you, and that is exactly how it went down.
And I would like to tie this back to Islam, because I actually received a message. I'm not going to say who it was, because whenever people talk to me about stuff like this, they talk to me about it in confidence, so I'm not going to say the person's name. But they did ask me, what can I do? I forget which country they said they were in, but it's another highly Islamic country, not Mr. Logic.
Yeah.
This is somebody who has not made an appearance on my channel before. And they were asking me, hey, what can I do? And I had to direct them. I said, hey, go to Atheist Republic. They specialize in helping people who need asylum, who need advice, who are stuck in countries like this. Please go talk to them. If you are watching this at any point and you are in a country that you cannot get out of, or you feel like you can't get out of, or you feel like you'll be hurt, like this person honestly they were currently barring themselves in their house because they had already been attacked, and they were coming to me for help, and I couldn't do more than saying, these are people who can help better than I can. And I feel bad for that.
I've had a similar situation, because I used to, one of my ex-friends, well, she's not really an ex-friend, I just don't talk to her anymore. She had a friend that was overseas, specifically in Iran, and she is, I think, 16 or 17.
Mm-hmm.
And she had a boyfriend that lived a couple of countries away, not very far, but was out of the Islamic faith. And, he was trying to get her out of that household, but because she was so young, she could not be, taken out of that household. And there were bombings going on at her house. And he loved her to the point where he spent his money to try and go get her. But her parents barred him from doing that, even at the risk of their own daughter's life. Because that's they were hardcore Islamic family, and she just wanted to be free, and she wanted to be in a safe place, and because of their religion, they forced their, yes, technically a minor daughter, but in a war zone with active bombs dropping around her, to be forced to stay in that same place. And it was a hard couple of years. And I believe she's finally out of there now, and I believe that they're finally together and like away from that country. But it was still a rough couple of years having to know that at any point we could lose a friend simply because her parents were told by their faith and by people representing their faith that they could not leave the country or allow her to.
And what's horrible is that we can come up with so many scenarios in recent years where Islam has brutalized its own people, but people still don't understand that faith. And because they don't understand it, they don't feel like they can criticize it. One of the worst things, and I think when you ask, why can't we criticize it? I think one of the worst offenders as to why it seems like we can't criticize it is for some reason people in this day and age still think that Muslim is a race.
It's not.
Yeah.
But it's not. I could convert to being a Muslim right now, and it would not change my race. Now, granted, I'm not going to do that outside of an April Fool's video where I'm wearing a Sikh hat, which is a completely different religion, but it looks more aesthetically pleasing than a white skull cap.
We're in America. People won't be able to tell the difference.
Honestly, I only received 2 messages that it was from Sikhism, and they were from one person who studies theology more than I do, and Anti-Ordinary, who also studies theology more than I do. And they were the only 2 people who caught that it was Sikhism. They're the only 2 people who caught that. I was honestly surprised. I thought more people were going to hit me for the turban thing. But because people don't understand that Muslim is not a race, Islam is a religion, and ideas are not immune to criticism.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's so hard to criticize Islam. Not only do people not know it, they don't understand it. But it's really hard, even when they do understand it, to break out of that mindset. For instance, you've got so many memes on the internet. One of them is like, death and killing is referenced, say, 390-something times in the Quran, but it's referenced 3 times that many times in the Bible. Which one's the worst book? People will share that meme repeatedly and not even realize that the Quran is less than 1/3 of the length of the entire Bible. Of course it's going to have less instances of it. It's a matter of fucking statistics.
Yeah.
That's all it is. But it's so hard for people to understand that. I used to be, and this was very recently, maybe I see Hylia. I do. I do. I want to say maybe within the last 3 years, I used to be one of those people that would call people out for being an Islamophobe, but not even realizing that Islam wasn't a race. I still thought that. This was within very recent memory. That's how highly ingrained this is into people. It's ingrained ignorance, which is reinforced because we're on the internet. So any ignorant asshole, I mean, hey, look at me, can be vocal on the internet and people will listen to them.
I think another thing what it is people who have a conscience are really, I mean, since we're in America, the majority, the majority religion here is Christianity. And here in America, people who have a conscience are really careful not to pile on or kick down or marginalize people who are already marginalized. And obviously, people here who are Muslim are a marginalized group.
Yes.
And so it doesn't make sense to punch down or to kick down, you know.
Doesn't make sense.
But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about just in general. I've had a problem, and I was like you. I was afraid of. I didn't like people being an Islamophobe, but to me that just means just the fear or just hating people because they were Muslim.
Yeah, but
I don't fear or hate people who are Christian. I just think that their ideas and beliefs are stupid, and I wish the people who would espouse the various criticisms for Islam would use less of the caricatures of the people who follow the Islamic faith, would stick to criticizing the ideas and the messaging and the book
You can't
and
just
not
say I hate Islam because Osama bin Laden. There's way more to it than that. You can't just point to a single person.
yeah, I don't hate Christians because of Billy Graham. You know, I mean, Billy Graham may not have directly killed people like Osama bin Laden, but God damn it, the people who really take his message to heart do have an impact that results in people dying. I mean, you think about his hard stance on abortion, which would cause people who can't afford to raise children to have those children. And, you know, it could be the mother's on drugs, or they couldn't carry the baby to term. They couldn't afford the medical care leading up to it. You know, just the hardships that would cause. And, you know, so while not as
caused. That's a reality in our country still in a lot of places.
Yeah, so I mean, so I don't hate Christians because of Billy Graham. I think he's just a wicked, evil person. I separate, you know, he's just a wicked, evil person, and there's also other Christians. And Osama bin Laden
happens to be,
yeah, exactly. And Osama bin Laden wasn't even really overtly religious. I think people miss that. He wasn't like what do you call it? He wasn't like an imam or anything. Osama bin Laden. He's just a wicked. He was just an evil, wicked bastard. And then there's other Muslims, and I simply criticize their beliefs, and I criticize their book. And once again, I wish that just as we criticize the beliefs in the book, the beliefs of Christians and the book that Christians follow, I wish I would hear more of the criticisms of the Quran, the different hadiths, and
yeah, I think
and there it is.
That's one of the reasons I know you keep up with my channel somewhat in short spurts when you've actually got time, is what I've kind of gathered whenever we talk. If you've noticed, I've kind of had a little bit of a shift where I'm talking about Islam almost as much as Christianity lately on my channel, or at least responding to Islamic videos as much as I do Christian ones. Because while I understand that, because I live in the United States, Christianity is the major threat here. It is what influences the politics the most. It is what tries to push creationism in places like Texas. It is
Kansas.
What's up?
I'm from Kansas. For a while, they made the schools. Kansas had they made the schools teach creation. They dropped evolution from the books, and they taught creation for about a year, and then it got reversed.
So because of instances like that, luckily in Texas they failed to do that. They tried to get creationism in and failed. But I recognize that Christianity is the threat here, multiple forms of it. But I also recognize that there are people who do not live in the United States, and there are people from my audience who do not live in the United States who need to hear that criticism of Islam as well. So I try to tackle them too. The other two, this is the third interview on my channel, longest one because it's the only one I've managed to do live. But the other two interviews on my channel have been with people stuck in Islamic countries, because I want to make sure that those people have a voice. And it's the same reason when you said, you know, can I get an area on your channel? I know that in your situation, you don't have a voice on Facebook. You can't. You're ostracized. Most of your family, most of the people you've grown up with, they have, in effect, shunned you because of your atheism. You fit directly into the category of somebody who does not have a loud enough voice from your platform. So hop onto my platform where it's a little safer, somewhat, and I can give those people a voice. It's a very small thing I can do, but when I said that to Allie from Atheist Republic, she threw it back at me and said that's not a small thing, and don't ever call that a small thing. So I'm gonna try to keep that. Anytime that somebody needs a voice, I want to be able to hold an interview with them. I know that there's other people like Godless Engineer who like to interview YouTubers. He's going to be interviewing me next week.
Can't wait to watch that.
What's up?
Can't wait to watch that.
I can't wait to watch it either because I am a narcissist, so I watch myself.
He's shocked when he learned that I don't watch his videos because I watch him make the videos.
This is true. It's a lot like Johnny Depp. I don't need to watch my movies. I make my movies.
Real talk, though.
But I know that there's a big want to see YouTubers interact and stuff like that. So getting those interviews is really cool for YouTube. But for me, I might want to do that later on down the road. But right now, my biggest thing is finding people who don't have a voice there, giving them an interview, giving them a voice, letting them get their opinions out on my channel. And then other people can read that, and maybe they'll be stuck in a situation kind of like you are.
Hi, Godless Cranium.
How's it going, Godless? I imagine that you're here to shitpost this stream as much as you did Godless Engineers.
Real quick interjection. Parcel Form says, do you think Christians are ready for Muslims to become the majority? Assuming that happens, of course. I'm skeptical of the birth rate equals growth method.
Well, Parcel, the thing I would say there, if you look at current statistics, most Christians or most Protestant Christians do not accept Catholics as Christians as well. This is generally very true among most areas. Godless Cranium never shits talk. That is a lie.
What kind of drugs are you on today, Cranium?
But if you take most Protestants at their word, with their no true Scotsman fallacy that Catholics are not true Christians, then Islam is already the majority, hands down. There's 1.2 billion non-Christian, non-Catholic Christians, and 1.8 billion Muslims. So the reality is we're already living in the reality that Muslims are either rivaling or, depending on how you want to skew the data, overcoming Christianity as far as which one has more people in the world. So we're already there. And no, I don't think Christians are ready for that, even though I think that a Christian and a Muslim who both are not fundamentalists could sit down and have a conversation and realize that at the end of the day, they both worship Yahweh. It's just one of them calls it Allah. But realistically, it's the same God. It's the God of Abraham.
Yeah.
When I used to be a Christian, I would tell that to people. I would say that, Islam worships the same God we do. And they would go, no, it doesn't. It does not. It doesn't. I'm like, yes, it does. It's the God of Abraham. They have the Moses story. They've got the Noah story. They've got all that. It's the same stories in a different book told in a different way.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it is.
It's like the movie versus the comic.
Muslims accept the Old Testament, and
they accept
Jesus. They just don't think that he was the son of God. They just think he was one of his prophets.
Yes, they think he was a very important prophet, but he was not the last one. He was not the son of God. That's as far as they go. There actually are, if memory serves, there are some denominations in Islam that do stretch that a little more and give Jesus his virgin birth. Even not Joe Witness, even trying to explain it to some that don't follow religions don't realize it.
I like Godless comment.
They should worship the God of Cranium. Okay, so
the God of Head.
I have to wonder, Godless Cranium. Are they worshiping God blessed Cranium, God damned Cranium, or you? Which one? You've got three. And I need to know. This is information that I need to know, and my subscribers need to know.
Ginger Jesus says, "Bow down before me,
or burn in eternal hell." Okay, well, Ginger Jesus is obviously the God that we need to be worried about.
Hey, GMS is joining.
How's it going, Drew? To be fair, you must have a very high IQ to understand Islam. Okay, so we have to both worship Ginger Jesus and Godless Cranium. Drew, do you want to chime in on this? Do you think we should worship Godless Cranium? I know you and him have some words for each other. Protestants hate Catholics. They hate Jews. They even claim to know the Torah better than the Jews. It was very funny that most Protestants that will claim to know the Torah, when you say, oh, so you know the Pentateuch better, they'll go, what the hell is the Pentateuch? But it's very strange to me. It's also very strange to me that most atheists seem to read the Bible more than most Christians. I'm fairly certain, DubKDad, that happened with you as well. You probably read the Bible more often after deconverting.
Yes, that is absolutely true.
It's very sad.
My Bible is before before I would open the Bible and ritually read along with the the rest of the congregation.
Yes.
And then after somehow I collected these various highlighters, and now my Bible is just like full of just markings and highlight. Well, this is bullshit. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. So I'm gonna have to remember this next time it comes up. Remember this. Remember this. Remember this.
I know the feeling when before I started my channel, I did not know where my original Bible was, the one that I grew up with. Now my original King James version that I used in school sits in my car for daily reference anytime that I need it.
There was a time where he literally went to work and got the aforementioned employee that blares gospel music. He went back, got the Bible, brought it into work, and was like, look, here's all the reasons you're wrong.
So my thing in the workplace is I don't bring up my channel. I don't bring up my atheism. I don't bring any of that unless it is brought up from the other person first. With this particular coworker, what ended up happening was he was in the office proselytizing to two of our managers. Essentially, his entire thing was, oh, the word of God is like the hammer of Thor. It's like Mjolnir. If you are speaking from the Bible and you're not speaking with the Holy Ghost, then it's like trying to wield Mjolnir without being Thor. It's just not going to work. And my response to him was, well, there is one thing that is very similar between your God and Thor, and that's that they're both fictional characters. But I did a little bit of the Socratic method on him once and said, hey, so what do you think God is? And he said, well, God is what created the universe. And I said, okay, well, what do you define as good? He said, good is whatever God wants. And I said, okay, what's your stance on slavery?
Short circuit.
Yeah, he had to stutter before responding, and then he had to give caveats. And I think when you have to stutter before responding to something about slavery, it outlines the problem as much as need be. Thor is Jesus' worst nightmare, dude with a big hammer.
Drew, isn't it past your bedtime? 13-year-olds were supposed to be in bed like 12 minutes ago.
It's horrible. If Thor is Jesus' worst nightmare because he wields a big hammer, then would that mean that my avatar is also Jesus' worst nightmare?
No, it just means any dude with a big dick.
Oh, Holy Father, why have you given me your sacraments?
Did you see that, Godless Cranium is giving sacrament to Ginger Jesus right now in the chat?
He's giving him cranium. Jesus, Godless Cranium is totally Loki. I believe that.
With how much he shit posts?
It seems anytime that I'm on a Godless Cranium stream, I see Genetically Modified Skeptic come in and shit post. But then, when Genetically Modified Skeptic is on a stream, I see Godless Cranium do the shit posting instead.
And then whenever you're on a stream, they
both shit post me.
They both shit post.
Well, it's not a whenever. This is the first time that I've hosted a stream.
Yeah, but now it's like a...
I'm giving GMS sacraments.
You know he's 12. It's past his bedtime. Let him go to sleep.
Don't you mean you know he's 12 and you're not Catholic, so this is bad?
Right? Like, come on, man. Step up. Get put on the robes or you can't get head.
And I think when you mentioned that it seems that we can't criticize Eastern religion, I think that I would like to expand that past Islam. It's not just that people have an issue when you criticize Islam. There also seems to be an issue with all Eastern religions. If you criticize Jainism, they go, well, Jainists are so peaceful. If you criticize Buddhists, I'm 13, okay? If you criticize Buddhists, then oh well, what have Buddhists ever done to you? But Genetically Modified Skeptic actually did a video on his channel where he went to Singapore, I believe it was Singapore, and he visited temples of various Eastern religions and realized that their temples are no different than our churches.
Yeah.
There's almost no difference.
The only difference between mainly Buddhists and other religions is that Buddhists keep their fucking mouths shut.
Sometimes.
Most of the time,
Buddhists are killing a shitload of people right now.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but most of the time, hand in hand with yes, we must be peaceful. We must be, yeah, praise be. You don't see, you don't hear about the Buddhists that are killing people until it's in a small amount of area like this, where like you're the only one, other than like obviously the big YouTubers that research this kind of stuff, that knew that.
No, it's just it's numbers. It's numbers. If you have an area where a particular powerful religion is the majority, then they're gonna oppress and try to pretty much get rid of the minority. So I can't remember where it is. Not Darfur. I'm too tired. I'm going to go to bed soon. But I can't remember where it is. But right now, there are Buddhists killing off a small, I think, Muslim population in their country. I mean, just like slaughtering them wholesale. And, it's crazy. So now you feel bad for Muslims.
Why don't we just say that atheists are slaughtering them, and that would make the Muslims feel like everything's fine because most Buddhists are atheists? We'll just say, I don't want to be associated. We'll just say that it's evil baby-eating atheists that are doing it, and we will just ignore the fact that they're Muslims, and all of a sudden, the headlines now will work better in Western society.
But probably there are no headlines about what's going on, though, which is sad.
Yes.
So sad.
I
don't know if we got through all the topics, but I got to get up in
was all the
5 hours.
That was the final topic.
Yep.
Oh, cool. Man, I appreciate you so much for giving me this opportunity to get this off of my chest.
And we can have you back anytime.
Yeah, I've been avoiding fanboying this entire time, but I have been a fan of your channel, even though it hasn't had stuff on it for years. But I've been a fan of your channel for literally the last decade. As a poor kid, who could not afford to buy his own Yu-Gi-Oh cards for the most part growing up, when you made decks like Hammer and Nail and put them on your channel, I was like, oh, I can afford that. I can build that.
Yeah. I made it. I mean, just to geek out before anybody gets pissed off, we switch to this. I basically made that because the card shops. Because we went to. I know you remember my channel, so we would go to different card shops, and there were certain card shops in certain areas where, whereas I was competitive and me and my group, DKF was competitive.
Yep.
We go to places and maybe the kids wanted to be competitive, but they couldn't shell out $300 for a Dark Armed Dragon.
Yes.
You feel what I'm saying? And so I was like, well, these kids are, these kids deserve to be able to play. Maybe I could create something that's fun and relevant and works. Mm-hmm. And then I just got caught up on that. And then I ended up using a lot of those decks myself, because then I had to prove myself. I would build it, and well, you would never run it. And then I would take these little cheap ass decks and take them to regionals and like actually top regionals with these cheap ass decks. And that kind of led credence, in my area, and the people that watched the video, they okay, well, this cheap shit actually works.
Yeah.
And so that's what drove me on, because just watching kids, and I was already a grown ass man playing the game. So I was like, well, why can't you afford it? I'm like, oh yeah, you're a kid. You don't have the resources that a grown adult would have.
Yeah, well, when you made decks like that, it inspired me a lot, and it kept me playing a game that at the time I could not afford to play competitively, but I was able to build decks off of what you were making, and I was able to top 8 decently consistently at my locals afterwards. And that was something that just floored me. And I know that it's off topic. I know that my fans are going to be like, Chris, why aren't you talking about atheism and religion? What the fuck are you doing on your channel?
Well, I mean, we could go with GMS's suggestion and just talk about how Godless Cranium is a bitch.
Well, Godless Cranium wears a mask, and so nobody knows what he looks like. So yes, I have to agree with GMS.
Right? Like, you're showing your face?
Oh.
He's a grown-ass man playing WoW right now.
No. He's a grown ads man.
Man playing WoW.
Like, he's obviously got, like,
he's playing
Oragel on his cheek.
Oh, my God.
Like, he's got ads everywhere.
Okay. Well, with that said, that was the little bit of fanboying that I've managed to keep just, like, in my stomach and not used for the past 2 hours. So I wanted to get that out of the way.
Real cool, man.
very happy to have you on the channel. Any other time that you want to hop on, let me know. And I will try to do it within a 3-day margin. That way I can actually prepare instead of like rushing home off of work and going, how do I make a stream?
No, that's not what happened.
No, I sent her messages. Please set me up a stream.
He messaged me at like 9:30. Pam, how do you stream Google Hangouts on YouTube?
How do I do this? I've only ever streamed to Twitch with OBS. I understand complicated OBS, but I don't understand streaming Google Hangouts.
Like,
yeah. Again, I appreciate it. I was like blowing up inside. I think I just watched the video. I don't know when you uploaded. It was the one where you were like dissecting some dude about some Muslim guy talking about pork and something.
Oh, Dr. Zakir Habib, whatever his name is.
I don't know. Were you uploaded a couple months ago or something?
I think I uploaded about a month ago now, where he basically said that pigs are swingers and so don't eat them.
Yeah, and like my head was like, oh my God, this is the stuff that's in my head. I gotta get this out. Why do people talk about this stuff? And yeah, so and then I messaged you. So you know what I said, maybe I could I get this out. I could get some feedback. No, I'm not crazy, and then maybe I can sleep tonight.
True. That said, I know that you mentioned a while back, and this will be the last thing before we let you go.
I've got to pee.
Oh, you can go ahead and go pee. Like, that's fine.
I was like,
nobody's stopping you from doing that.
We're gonna wrap it up. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go pee, and it'll be great.
Is that a condom joke?
Yes. Wrap it up.
Oh my God. What I will say, at one point you mentioned that you wanted to make a new channel and start getting some of these ideas out on a channel where you would have something that you could leave your kids.
Yes.
Is what you mentioned before. I know this is something that was touched on at Faithless Forum. You definitely need to check those videos out whenever they go live. If you want to do that, my suggestion would be just do it. Whenever you find some time, just get home, pop up your phone, and just type out a script real quick, and then just record it, toss it on your laptop, and go. Like, I fully support you in that. I think that's a good idea. And I think you honestly should do it. And if you want to say that on yours, I will definitely give you a shout out onto whatever channel you build for there on your channel so you can get that message out. Because I think you should.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, because I got gun shy because I think I contacted you or you contacted me some months ago when I decided to start putting that stuff together, and then all of a sudden I went silent. I don't know if you remember that. You
went silent for a good few months. And in that time I had already started my channel up. Yeah, that's when I started getting the harassment, and I went silent. I was like, oh, I can't take this. This is too much. I can't have people who I loved my whole life just turn on me like that. I'm not ready for that. I wasn't ready. And like I said before, I'm honored to be able to give somebody who I've been a fan of for a decade a platform to speak on. So that's something that I'm very happy about. But with that said, we'll go ahead and start wrapping up and letting you go. Let me know if you ever build that channel up. And when you do, I will definitely let my subscribers know, because I think a lot of them are already fans of you. from what I'm getting from the chat, they already like you. So you've got friends, you've got people to talk to, you've got people who want to hear your message. So whether it's on my channel or on yours, you're always welcome here, and I will definitely give you a shout out whenever you build yours.
And we look forward to seeing you at Faithless Forum 2 next year.
Definitely.
Awesome. Okay, guys. Thanks a lot. Thanks again.
For everyone who tuned in, thank you for tuning in. This was DubKDad, a person who I've respected for years. Thank you guys for tuning into my first stream, as sloppy as it was, and as my studio is. My studio is my living room. So thank you guys. Thanks, DubKDad. Thanks, everyone. We're going to go ahead and hop off the stream. We'll see you in the next one.